teachers are teaching for the sake of money. Mnemonics is basically a device to learn. It's techniques.
पेरेंट्स को अवेयरनेस नहीं है भरत. अपॉर्चुनिटीज इतनी हैं कि मैं आपको बता नहीं सकती.
There's a friend of mine who was kicked out of school in 8th grade because he was dyslexic. Inclusive education is about embracing the wild and diverse set of cards that human intelligence comes with. That's why we have a podcast also coming up on this. The first town hall of AntaRaag on air. I'm sure that you're going to love it. We have a long way to go, but the journey is going to be beautiful. There's this very old story of something that all of us might have heard at some point in our life. This cute little fish, a little squirrel and a bird, all given the same exam of trying to climb the top of the tree.
Yes.
We all know where that story ends. As a individual, as a human being, as a citizen of this country, I don't want our stories to end there. On that note, I am so happy today to host this podcast. Today's town hall is about exploring the development of intelligence in children, keeping marks aside. So, I want to start on this note. I'm happy to have somebody on the show who is a curious, intelligent, edtech startup owner from Hyderabad. Polymath is the name of the startup brainchild of his. He's working with many schools in Hyderabad to help elevate learning and absorption in children through technology. He has worked with children who are differently abled and even brought into light many methods and techniques, to help build the gap between learning and teaching. A humble and simple human being, and also your best bud to start up conversations. Welcome, Fouzan. Welcome on the show.
Thank you, Bharat. Thanks for having me.
On the same panel, we are fortunate to have somebody who all of us at some point would have to turn around and feel grateful for. A teacher. A school teacher who has more than 2 decades of experience in building patience, in teaching, in imparting knowledge. Also, an NLP practitioner and a published author of her first book, NLP and Education, Unlocking Young Minds. Somebody who really lives with her heart on the sleeve when it comes to helping children become better. Welcome, Divya ma'am. Welcome on the show.
Thank you.
And a cute, tiny little introduction to Reshma, who's a podcast content research partner and who's worked very hard over a course of many days to curate and come up with the questions and content that will be presented on the show. Welcome, Reshma.
Pleased to be here, sir.
First off, let's start with the common thread, schools.
Okay.
Ma'am, starting with you. What has been your experience what has been your growth as a person from day one to today?
From day one, जब B.Ed करके निकले, so I thought I have the whole knowledge of content and मुझे बस जाके deliver करना है. And the pace I will be delivering, the kids will experience and they will absorb it. From that day till now, I will say content वही है, but पूरा नज़रिया बदल गया है कि बच्चे कैसे लेते हैं. So my 21 years of experience taught me 21 billion ways the kids learn, basically. The kids have difficulty in learning. So it's the same content a good teacher or a growing teacher should be able to deliver in different ways. So if you can touch kids' heart, if you can make them feel that it is possible to learn and absorb and apply, then you can call yourself as a teacher.
Where is the roadblock generally? I know it's very tough to generalize,
right,
since you said billion, but general perspective, where is the roadblock?
The roadblock is that we are now much better in terms of understanding human mind. We are able to generalize or categorize human mind and the learning styles of kids. So if not 100%, to a very major percentage, teachers still feel enabled to deliver a content. We have technology, we have lot of teaching aids, we have lot of skill, that soft skill that teachers are trained. So the teacher has to be just open to learning, should have a growth mindset. So there I feel the system still helps basically.
Fouzan, this is where it connects to you.
Yeah.
This is where it connects to you. This conversation is right now taking a form of completely a connection-oriented approach. But you come from the data set side of the world, right?
Yeah.
So, from the data point of view, looking at the statistics of engagement, how many kids are listening, where they're lacking, where the absorption has to increase, technology, techniques, what has been your learning from polymath?
So basically, when I was in my schooling, I had very competitive friends. And I just came back from Saudi Arabia. I had my schooling over there. And when I came here, when I had those friends who were really competitive, I found out that I was not up to the mark. And they were really close to me, but they were really competitive. And the way they were taught, the way they were learning was really different. And that's what sparked interest in me. Okay, I have to again cope up. That's what, when जब आप बच्चे रहते, you want to be, according to your peers and all. So when I, as I grew up, there was a session which was taken by Latif Khan. He's the MS Education Institution's chairman. So he was actually taking a workshop on memory. So there he taught me mnemonics. So there when I saw him on stage, I got this thing that, okay, you can just learn whatever we are learning right now in a very completely different manner, and it's also fun. So I started enjoying the process and I started, practicing it. So first thing I'd never had in my mind ki I would teach this thing. It was just ki meku maza aa raha, I will do it.
So your journey also started from teaching at a young age.
Yes, very young age, yeah.
Oh, that now it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my parents used to say कि आप कभी पढ़ते ही नहीं हो, मार्क्स कैसे आ रहे हैं, चीटिंग कर रहे हो क्या? बट द थिंग इज जब भी मेरे दोस्त आते तब मैं उनको वही करता था. तो जब मैं बच्चों में भी ये गौर करा कि जब मैं लोग को पढ़ा रहा था तो वो लोग मेरे को जब वापस रिस्पॉन्ड करके जो कॉन्सेप्ट है उसको अगर समझा सक रहे थे, दैट मीन्स दे हैव अंडरस्टूड द कॉन्सेप्ट. So there is something called as Feynman technique. Okay, this is what I practice a lot everywhere where I go. So Richard Feynman, he's a physicist, right? So he used to teach a lot. I mean, he was a professor. So उनका तरीका ये था कि whenever he used to teach, I mean physics to a very, I think he used to teach in Stanford or somewhere. So आप समझ सकते हो कि वहाँ पे कितने कैसे students आएंगे. And he used to teach physics and all. So बहुत ही high level concepts. But the beauty of it is कि he used to teach in a very simpler way. Like बहुत बड़ा concept, he used to break it down and explain it in such way कि 12 साल का बच्चा भी समझ जाए.
How?
So, for example, if you are talking about कोई बड़ा सा concept like, let's take the example of Henry Fayol's principles of management. Okay, a very important answer if you're an economics student. I don't think you guys are economic students. Sorry.
Little bit there.
Yeah. So there are 14 principles of Henry Fayol's, and it's a very important answer. When I was teaching, I used to see कि every year that this answer used to come. So it's a very important question as well. So there are 14 principles of management. Now एक तरीका ये है कि आप बताओ कि एस्पिरिट डी कॉर्ड्स बोल के एक पॉइंट है. एस्पिरिट डी कॉर्ड्स मतलब यूनियन विद स्ट्रेंथ. वेरी सिंपल कॉन्सेप्ट, एस्पिरिट डी कॉर्प्स. नाउ एक तरीका ये कि आप उसको मगअप करवाओ बच्चों को कि ये डेफिनेशन है एंड आप है ना सिर्फ बड़े अल्फाजों में समझाओ. सो दिस इज़ व्हाट आई ऑल्सो फील. कई बार लोग क्या करते हैं ना, सिंपल बात को बड़े अल्फाज में बोलने की कोशिश करते हैं एंड दे कॉम्प्लिकेट थिंग्स.
And I would just like to add a quick plug-in. He's also shyer, so that's why alphas, all of these words coming out.
Sorry.
He's a beautiful shyer. We need a lot of shairi from you later on. Continue.
Sure. So this is very simple, right? I used to think कि whatever technical terms में जो भी आंसर है, जो भी कॉन्सेप्ट्स है, उसको ये समझो कि दुनिया में ये चीज़ कहाँ पर होती है. ठीक है, आप जब रोड पे चलते हुए लोगों को तो ये नहीं बोलोगे ना कि आयन बैटरीज है आपके पास. बोलो कि भाई बैटरी है. You won't use those terms at all.
Making it relatable. Okay.
Making it relatable, that's it. So पढ़ाने का बहुत सिंपल सा फंडा है कि आप उसको रिलेटेबल बनाओ, बच्चों को ईजी क्या बोलते हैं कॉन्सेप्ट्स में बताओ. So this is what I figured it out कि the first technique, I won't say technique, but मेरे को पता भी नहीं था कि उसको technique बोलते हैं, but जो the way I cracked it कि जब मैं बच्चों से ज़्यादा बात कर रहा था, early on I figured out कि I have to make them understand things in a very simpler manner. Because I also used to learn from teachers at that point, because I was in my 11th and 12th, I used to see my teachers, they used to tell बहुत ही simple topics in a very complicated manner. तो मेरे को समझ में आया कि जो टीचर्स मेरे साथ कर रहे हैं ना, वो मैं अपने स्टूडेंट्स के साथ नहीं करूँगा.
What is, you said mnemonics?
Mnemonics.
Mnemonics. What is that?
Mnemonics is basically a device to learn. It's techniques.
If you could tell me in a couple of sentences exactly what it is.
Okay, so mnemonics is basically learning devices that, अच्छा मैं आप लोग को और सिंपल अल्फाज में समझाऊंगा कि हाँ, तो जैसा अब समझिए कॉन्सेप्ट्स रहते हैं ना कि वी हैव डिफरेंट थिंग्स दैट वी हैव टू लर्न. अलग अलग चीज़ें हमको याद करना आता है कॉन्सेप्ट्स में. फोटोसिंथेसिस को जब हम समझा रहे हैं, या फिर जैसा मैं आपको बोला कोई भी आंसर को समझा रहे हैं, उसको एक स्टोरी फॉर्मेट में समझो. ठीक है, तो स्टोरीज आर रियली पावरफुल इन नेचर. नेमोनिक का एक डिवाइस है, वी कॉल इट एज स्टोरी टेलिंग मेथड.
Okay, so there are different approaches to teaching.
Yeah, we can also memorize numbers as well. It's very easy, by the way. There are different approaches to learning numbers as well. So one technique I'll teach you, which is my favorite, which I love it. It is called a storytelling method. So storytelling method का एक बेसिक सा फंडा है, स्टोरी अच्छी रहना चाहिए प्लस उसमें इमोशंस रहना चाहिए. अगर स्टोरी जैसे हम सुबह में क्या टूथपेस्ट करें, क्या खाए, वो याद नहीं रहता है, बट कोई इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ वो याद रहती है, वो वाली स्टोरी याद रहती है हमें. तो पढ़ाई को इंटरेस्टिंग वे में एक स्टोरी फॉर्मेट में बनाओ.
And also, I read about this when doing research for this particular podcast, that playing increases the pace of learning.
Yes.
It was in your book, and you also talked about 3 kinds of brain. I would love it if you add to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So mnemonics are basically to take the hint of certain words to learn something, some concept. For example, if I want to learn the planets, so this is a very general approach teachers use. They take the alphabet of each planet, the first alphabet, and use it as a form of rhyme. Like first 20 elements, unke alphabets leke they make a song of it. And then the another I use it when this is something I made it. So when I teach the structure of heart, I tell remember Lot 23. Lot 23 means left side oxygenated blood, right side deoxygenated blood. 23 means right side your bicuspid wall, left side your tricuspid wall.
Right.
Never forget it. I said this is when I was teaching smile. If you want to learn eclipse, learn smile. Smile को दो में divide करो, I से division करो. In solar eclipse, moon is in between. In lunar eclipse, earth is in between. Never forget it.
Right.
So that is the beauty of mnemonics.
Abbreviations?
Yep.
It's you
Acronyms.
take out abbreviation or you take out different ways to remember. See,
Abbreviation,
smile is
storytelling. Okay.
Smile is just I have taken out the words. So the science behind mnemonics is कि मैंने जो चीज़ लर्न कर रखी है अपने बचपन में, मैं उससे नए कॉन्सेप्ट को कनेक्ट कर दूँ. सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपको यहाँ से अपने घर जाने का रास्ता पता है.
This is memory association, right?
Yes.
I've read about this. Okay.
आपको अपने यहाँ से घर जाने का रास्ता पूरा पता है, राइट? जब आप फर्स्ट टाइम आए होंगे तब आपको शायद मुश्किल हुई होगी इस ऑफिस में, राइट? नाउ बिकॉज यू हैव गॉन 20 times, you know that the way here and there. But if while coming here, if I'll say भरत, वो जो आप वहाँ से राइट टर्न लेते हो अपने घर के लिए, उसकी जगह आप लेफ्ट टर्न लोगे तो आपको वो शॉप मिल जाएगी. आई कैन बिल्ड अप ऑन दी ऑलरेडी लर्नड पाथ, ऑलरेडी न्यूरल जो मेरे न्यूरल पाथ एसोसिएट हो गए हैं ब्रेन में, मैं उससे कनेक्ट करके अगर कोई दूसरी लर्निंग कराऊंगी तो इट विल बी मच मोर डीपर.
So your book also talked about emotional association with learning.
Yes.
That's
तो
exactly what he was talking about.
स्टोरी हमारे ब्रेन को वो चीज़ बहुत ज़्यादा याद रहता है जो इमोशनली टच हो जाता है. स्टोरी टेलिंग इज बेसिकली इट एलिसिट इमोशन. इमोशन इज द प्रोडक्ट ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर न्यूरल पाथवे. जो हमारा सबकॉन्शियस ब्रेन है वो फैक्ट्स वगैरह कुछ याद नहीं रखता, वो सिर्फ हर चीज़ को एक इमोशन की फॉर्म में याद रखता है, एक फीलिंग की फॉर्म में ध्यान रखता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल किसी जगह गए, वहाँ का पूरा कलर सब येलो था, ठीक है, लेकिन जितने दिन आप वहाँ रहे, आपके साथ उस जगह पर लोगों ने बिहेवियर ठीक नहीं किया, आपके एक्सपीरियंस ठीक नहीं हुए, एकदम क्लोज एसोसिएशन हो जाएगा येलो कलर से। आपको लगेगा जहाँ भी येलो कलर है, नहीं यार ठीक नहीं है, कोई लॉजिक नहीं है इसके बिहाइंड।
This is also the principle of trauma, right?
और
If I'm not wrong.
सबकॉन्शियस माइंड में जुड़ जाता है। इनफैक्ट लोगों की बहुत एलर्जी है, तो देयर इज़ अ केस स्टडी जहाँ पे एक इंसान को रोज़ से एलर्जी डेवलप हो गई एट द एज ऑफ 40। वो रोज़ स्मेल करता और वो बीमार हो जाता, और इतनी मेडिसिन हुई, देन द पेरेंट्स वेंट टू देन ही वेंट टू हिप्नोथेरेपिस्ट। द हिप्नोथेरेपिस्ट ने उसको उसकी पुरानी मेमोरी में लेके गई, एंड देन दे फाउंड कि फ्यू ईयर्स बैक he was on the rose shop and he just saw a very major accident. There is no connection, but the brain has made this anchor. तो स्टोरी बहुत बड़ा एंकरिंग है टू स्टक टू दिस इमोशन। तो जब एक रैबिट, आप एक स्टोरी सुनते हो कि एक रैबिट ने या किसी एनिमल ने बहुत ज़्यादा हार्डवर्क करके वो चीज़ अचीव की, सो जिस टोनालिटी में टीचर बोल रही है, जो इमोशन एलिसिट कर रही है, वो इमोशन इंसान बच्चे के अंदर स्टक हो जाता है। तो चाइल्ड क्या करते हैं, वहाँ पर खुद को विजुअलाइज करते हैं कि हम वो कर रहे हैं, राइट। ऑन द सेम पैटर्न यू टेल द चाइल्ड लेट्स गो, लेट्स डू इट, द चाइल्ड विल बी एब्सोल्युटली दैट इमोशन, द चाइल्ड फील कि मैं ये कर सकता हूँ। दैट्स द ब्यूटी ऑफ स्टोरी टेलिंग।
And this is a part of neuro-linguistic programming.
The neuro-linguistic programming tell you the science behind everything.
What is NLP? What is
NLP
neuro-linguistic
is
programming?
neuro-linguistic programming. It tells you कि हमारा माइंड बहुत टेंजिबल है। It tells you, it gives you the depth कि आपका ब्रेन कैसे काम करता है। अगर मुझे ये पता है कि बच्चों का दिमाग कैसे काम करता है, मैं अपनी टीचिंग मेथडोलॉजी उसके अराउंड घुमा सकती हूँ। तो जब ये पता लगता है कि बच्चे सबसे पहले तो स्टिमुलस कैसे लेता है, भरत, हर बच्चा स्टिमुलस भी अलग लेता है, इन्फॉर्मेशन भी अलग अलग।
For the listeners, what do you mean by stimulus अलग लेता है?
स्टिमुलस मतलब मैं यहाँ पर एक एक्सपेरिमेंट करा रही हूँ कि दो कलर सॉल्ट हैं, वो मिल रहे हैं और एक नई चीज़ बन रही है, ठीक। दो टेस्ट ट्यूब्स हैं, एक में रेड कलर का लिक्विड है, एक में ब्लू कलर का लिक्विड है, उनको मिक्स किया और नई चीज़ बन रही है। आप ये चीज़ दिखा रहे हो ना, ये हर क्लास का बच्चा अलग अलग तरीके से एब्जॉर्ब करेगा। हमारे में एक प्रोसेस होता है डिलीशन, डिस्टॉर्शन एंड जनरलाइजेशन। जो भी मैं आपको बोलूँगी, जितना जैसा आपका माइंडसेट है, आप उसमें से उतना ही एब्जॉर्ब करोगे। यू कैन नेवर एब्जॉर्ब कंप्लीट 100% वट एवर आई एम सेइंग। हम सबके अंदर एक सीव है, एंड आवर ब्रेन डिपेंडिंग अपॉन आवर लर्निंग एबिलिटीज़, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन आवर एक्सपीरियंसेस, वी फील एंड वी पुट इट इन आवर सबकॉन्शियस माइंड।
True.
तो हर एक बच्चा अलग एब्जॉर्ब कर रहा है। तो एक एजुकेशन या एक वीडियो कार्टून वो काम क्यों कर जाता है जो एक टीचर भी नहीं कर पाती। आप एनिमेशन से दिखा रहे हो, हर बच्चे को अपीलिंग क्यों होता है, क्योंकि विजुअल बच्चे को विजुअल मिल रहा है,
Different kinds of
audio
learning.
बच्चे को ऑडियो मिल रहा है, काइनेस्थेटिक बच्चा वो मूवमेंट, वो फेस एक्सप्रेशन, वो पूरा ऑरा एब्जॉर्ब कर पा रहा है। इट सूट्स मोस्ट ऑफ द लर्निंग।
What are different kinds of learning?
There are learning styles.
Learning styles, sorry.
Right. So अगर जर्नलाइज करो तो 12 डिफरेंट टाइप्स हैं, लेकिन मेजरली इट इज़ विजुअल, काइनेस्थेटिक एंड ऑडियो। देख के सीखना, सुन के सीखना, करके सीखना। यू हैव टू इन्वॉल्व। देखो मैं काइनेस्थेटिक हूँ क्योंकि मैं बोलते वक्त बहुत हाथ हिलाती हूँ। आई हैव टू फील एवरीथिंग, राइट।
Yeah, so when we were doing research for this podcast, we actually went through a test online, me and Reshma, both of us, and we figured out our learning styles, and we were mind blown because we took a document and we first read it, and then we saw the visual of it, and then we tried to draw something, like do physical action. The learning speed I had with the physical part, kinesthetics, was very high. And with you, it was?
Auditory and visual. So when I explain and when I listen, then I learn faster. Even visual, because when I see, I learn faster.
Right. Is this also connected to the personality trait thing that you were talking about? Somewhere you were talking about that also. Is it interesting?
Yeah.
That's far off from this, but just like a rainbow in the sky, we were also talking about personality types and how that also is connected to
Yeah.
So
4 types of personality.
right.
The one that we took was MBTI. They were
Okay.
16. So they are like ENFJ. E stands for extroverted and N stands for intuition and everything. So I think that is also connected to learning styles, if I'm not wrong. Because extroverted people tend to talk a lot. So they are more likely to be auditory learners.
It's also the mix.
Yeah.
It's also a mix of those.
Majorly, what I have learned is there are 4 types of personality: auditory, visual, and audio digital, and kinesthetic. Audio digital are more logical. You tell them the logic behind it, they'll accept it. Auditory, when you're delivering a concept, their more focus is on audio, is on words. So अगर शांत माहौल है तो उनको ज़्यादा अच्छे से रिसेप्ट, कोई मूवी देखने जा रहा है, ऑडिटरी डायलॉग और उसके लिए वो शांत माहौल और वॉइस क्वालिटी बहुत ज़रूरी है. दे आर मच मोर, वो बता देंगे कि बास तेज है कि नहीं है, और ये वाला स्पीकर अच्छा है, ये वाला है, उनका वो वाला बहुत अच्छा है. म्यूज़िक में बहुत अच्छे होंगे, टोनैलिटी पहचान जाएंगे, और जो विजुअल है ना वो एंटर करते ही ना पूरा कलर स्कैन कर लेगा.
This is an interesting fact as well, that a lot of neuroscience development has happened during World War One.
Why is that?
So this is what happened during this World War One, that people were getting shot in the head.
Oh my God, I don't like where this is going. Is that real?
This is true. This is actually, the neuroscience field has evolved after that time only. The reason behind is people were getting shot in the head at some area of their brain has got damaged, and then they realized, okay, so they are not able to speak. I mean, they got cured, and after a while they figured out ki, okay, because he was shot in that area of the brain, he is unable to speak. He is unable to understand things. Few lost some kind of a memory. Few are unable to sense the touch. No, they are not able to feel things. Unable to, understand things. That's how they got to know, okay, this particular area of the brain is responsible for that particular thing. That's how things went on.
I would add something here. There is this phenomenon of a phantom limb. Okay. So what happens is, when a soldier comes back and he has lost a limb, for a long time, for the next few consecutive years, he feels the limb. Okay. So I would love to navigate now this conversation to a beautiful direction, which is, for a long time it was believed that this is spiritual, right? That there is a soul inside the body, and it is the soul that feels the sensory input, and the body is not necessarily needed for even feeling a limb. Then neuroscience enters, and they do a lot of research, and they find out that this phantom limb happens because when the body loses a limb, the human structure, the human brain is so smart, it wants to save space. So it associates that region to another part of the body. So they did tests. For example, if you lose an entire arm, sometimes the brain will associate the entire neural network to the right finger. So if you touch the little finger, you feel that limb. Right? Now, this is where it gets really interesting to me. Because there is reductionism and there is holistic. And when I went through both of your researches, I was researching on both of your profiles, I saw reductionism and I saw holistic, right? Because holistic is a truth. It 100% is. Because how do you know where the mind begins and the brain ends? Or where the brain begins and the mind ends? There's no way to know that. That's holistic. Reductionism is the approach of the existing institute of science, the existing establishment of science. Reductionism means, to study something, you have to divide it into total parts and study each piece independently. If there is, suppose, a lamp in front of me, to understand this lamp, I just have to break down exactly all that there is in this. There's glass, there's wax, there's this, there's fire, there's this chemical. This is reductionism. Holistic is where you look at the whole picture and look at the movements of things and understand. When it comes to, since the conversation now, topic itself was more than education, it was intelligence, development of intelligence, keeping scores aside. How do we take a holistic approach? And then I'll come back to you. How do you take a reductionism approach? And this is not a debate, it's a discussion. So what are the pros and cons of each? So actually I'll reframe that question, because I think I made a mistake in framing that question. What happens in holistic is that you look at value systems of a child.
Right.
Honesty, truth. You look at dedication. You look at perseverance.
Empathy.
These empathy. These are not things you can reduce scientifically.
True.
That's what I meant actually.
Right,
So
right.
if you are developing the intelligence of a child, you cannot use reductionism to develop patience.
Correct.
The scientific method of reductionism, material science, where you look at something and break down the total quantity of it materially, that cannot be used in developing patience, which is where you need holistic. But when it comes to neural networks and how the brain works, what is a dopamine cycle, right? Most of the listeners now listening to this would know what dopamine cycles are, where you have a reward system and that makes you work. You need reductionism. So my question is, how does holistic view help in what development of the child?
Holistic development helps the child to be more happy, to be more connected, and to grow together as a human being. Basically, what I feel it is more important, or when you say empathy, when you say interpersonal skill, these are the skill that doesn't help the child to gain mastery in one particular thing. These are the human values.
That makes life better.
Yes,
Yeah.
it makes life happier, better. You feel content. You don't feel lonely. You feel that you are a part of a big group. So, to develop the human being as a human being, this is important.
So, what is a holistic approach? Suppose I give you a hypothetical situation. You want a child to develop patience. And I'm sure this is an everyday scenario where you want the child to be patient. Shant ho jao, be patient. What would be your approach?
You need to be patient.
All
The
right.
child will absolutely model you.
You need to be patient so the child will
the
reflect
parent
it.
has to be patient.
Oh, okay.
Before NLP, I was a very angry girl, lady, who used to shout despite of knowing everything. Used to shout, used to always tell my son, ye karna hai, wo karna hai, right? Though my son was much more patient than me. But the moment I started working, what is my psychological needs and where was I going wrong? That is the first thing that I made change. From past 5 months, I haven't shouted at all. I haven't got angry at all.
Wow.
And it worked like wonder. Anything you want to teach your child, adapt.
You know, when you see a beautiful movie, no matter how much you try to break down which camera was used or reductionism on the brains of the actors, you will never be able to understand the beauty of the movie. So that's holistic. But unless you have good cameras, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have very good actors, unless you have the reductionism also, I don't think this conversation becomes complete. That part, that's like the yin to the yang, right? Yin and yang.
Yep.
So, two questions actually. One is, how does technology help in ed tech? When you say ed tech, how does technology help in absorption? A. B. How does reductionism help?
Dyslexia, right? So the usage of technology has been increasing, and I still feel that it has to improve much more to actually make an impact. So this is what I have said. Recently, we are working on this thing that this is called as gamification.
Yeah, I was about
Right.
to go there. Yeah.
So where we use technology to actually, grab more attention, increase students' activity with respect to academics, right? So what do we do? Gamification is basically it helps students engage more while they are learning. So technology is used and has been is developing much more at a faster rate to actually engage children more and more. And there are a lot of use cases in technology. Like what we use is, we have actually recently developed something called as working memory test, where whenever we go to schools, tell them to take a test of working memory. That working memory actually, so it consists of a lot of small tests where I don't think it is completely accurate, because I'll come to that part as well of IQ and EQ. So working memory, which is measuring your prefrontal cortex, where working memory is. So it has N-back test, it has facial, number reasoning.
I'll just add one thing for the listeners. Prefrontal cortex is?
So it's working memory.
It is
So
the
what do
part
we-
of your brain that...
Yeah. So prefrontal cortex basically is it's in frontal lobe, at the front of your brain.
And it is in charge of, I think this is from your book again, it's in charge of attention, regulating emotions.
Yeah, no, it is
No.
the main part of thinking, reasoning, logical thinking, basically thinking part.
Right.
So we have 3 parts of brain: reptilian. See, if you want to divide brain in different ways, there are n number of ways depending upon what aspect of brain we want to study. So if you want to study about life, so we have a reptilian brain, mammalian brain, and prefrontal cortex, that is a thinking brain.
Reptilian is?
The moment you will understand Bharat, you will be able to control your anxieties. And why it is so, I'll explain. So reptilian brain is the brain that we have carried from reptiles. We have evolved from reptiles. So it is the brain that alert us with any kind of danger. Okay, so suppose you are walking, the brain consistently say गिर जाओगे. अगर if you are walking on a narrow beam, गिर जाओगे, right? अगर तुम कार बहुत तेज चला रहे हो, तो brain will say slow down.
And even the sensations we feel?
Yes.
Like when a bike passes by, we feel the fear on the right side.
Yes, the fear और anxiety में इतना फर्क है कि fear बहुत थोड़े टाइम के लिए रहता है. Anxiety unnecessary future को सोच के रहती है. तुम यहाँ से ड्राइव कर रहे हो, तुमको एंग्जाइटी, अरे मैं ठीक से कर पाऊंगा कि नहीं, वो फियर नहीं है. फियर बस उस टाइम के लिए आएगा. तो रेप्टिलियन ब्रेन इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस टू सर्वाइव. अगर हमें कोई अलर्ट नहीं करेगा तो कोई मार के चला जाएगा, राइट?
But its function stop there.
If the function doesn't stop, it become anxiety.
Oh, right.
So the mammalian brain, the moment reptilian brain evoke that, आपको एक साइन देता है, you are getting late, right? The thinking brain has to immediately talk to your reptilian brain and say, I know it's 10:15, but I've always been on time. I know it will take 15 minutes to reach. And the reptilian brain से अच्छा मेरा काम हो गया, मैंने बस अलार्म करना था वो कर दिया. बट अगर आपने यहाँ थिंकिंग ब्रेन को स्टॉप कर दिया, देन कोई तो टॉक करेगा ना. मेमेलियन ब्रेन को वो पुश करके एंशियस इमोशन एलिसिट.
Mammalian brain is the emotional.
Yes, where the all the site of your emotions. तो क्या करेगा, आपके इमोशंस इवोक होने लग जाएंगे. तो इमोशन इवोक होंगे तो एंशियसनेस इवोक हो जाएगी, और फिर वो इट बिकम्स अ विशियस सर्कल. दैट द सेम थिंग हैपन इन मोस्ट ऑफ माय स्टूडेंट्स.
That's such a beautiful thought.
इतना अच्छा पढ़ के जाएंगे, मैं एग्जाम दूंगी, 100 on 100 लाएंगे, स्कूल में जाते ही 7 सिली मिस्टेक्स करेंगे. आप इतना भी पढ़ा लो, जब तक वो लूप में क्लोज नहीं करोगे, प्रोडक्टिविटी नहीं दिखती.
Actually, that is such a beautiful thought. That alarm सुबह बजना ज़रूरी है, पूरे दिन बजाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Right, exactly. Okay, I just want to add an experience or a story of something that happened with me in line with what you just said about the mammalian and reptilian brain and switching. So किसी ने मेरे को बोला, this is a time when I was working in Radio Mirchi, someone said, बहुत anxiety होती है तो गाना गाओ. Because the part of the brain that deals with emotions and singing is different from the part of the brain that. So I'm quite skeptical about everything. So that time I was like, क्या देखते हैं. Then one day I was getting late and I was heading to Mirchi and I had a show, right? So I was like, oh my god, if I don't reach, all this thing will go empty. No songs, nothing on air for next 2 hours. ठीक है? Or I'm really late. I'm like rushing. I'm going through traffic. I'm like speeding and I'm worrying. So I was like, instead of saying यार मैं लेट हो रहा हूँ मैं क्या करूँ, I start saying यार मैं लेट हो रहा हूँ मैं क्या करूँ. And I start feeling like, oh, that works. So students, next time you're stressing before exams, instead of saying मैंने कुछ नहीं पढ़ा, मैंने कुछ नहीं पढ़ा है,
And I tell them, please do not touch your books. बहुत डर लग रहा है ना, जाओ vigorous खेल कर आ जाओ. इतना बड़ा रीज़न है that playing must be there before your exam. In fact, जितने chess players हैं, before their main match, they go and they play football. Vigorous football खेलते हैं. Olympics में, I think who was the winner? Sorry, I don't know the name. The chess अभी chess.
Right. Even
Carlos Magnus.
Yes. So his interview just before the final, he went and he played football. Because every single thing associate with the emotion. Emotion ठीक कर दिया ना, feeling ठीक कर दिया, बच्चे को आप इतना ज़्यादा learning track पे ला सकते हो. और भरत, when you start talking ना, तो इतने wrong associations होते हैं, कहाँ से क्या association कर लेते हैं, and with that frame of mind they come to school. टीचर के बारे में सुना है कि बहुत strict है, इसीलिए क्लास में आते ही उस सब्जेक्ट से डिस्कनेक्ट हो जाता है लाइफ टाइम के लिए. टीचर प्लेज सच एन इम्पोर्टेंट रोल.
Right. I would love it if now from this informed point of view you can tell me game theory.
So Game theory is basically a very simple concept. Okay. In game theory, we have a lot of things again, a lot of games that we play. So when I started learning about game theory is this about a prisoner's dilemma, where you have two prisoners who are kept in the cell, okay, and they have been caught by robbing some bank or something. So there are different versions, and they have kept in different cells, and then they don't really have a big proof to actually prove that they are guilty, but they know, the police officers know that they have done it. So a lot of times this happens, right? So then they go to both of the prisoners and they say this thing, that you have two options: either you confess that and your partner did it, and I'll let you go, and if you don't tell, I'll keep you in the prison for 5 years. And the same thing, they go to the other prisoner and they say ki, if you tell me right now that you both have done it, did it, and आप लोग दोनों भी involved थे इसमें, so I'll let you go free, but I'll put him in prison for 5 years. But if you won't confess, then I'll put you in prison for 5 years and he will also be there. Now you have, ideally what should happen is that they both, so if they both also keep their mouth shut, they can just get released in 1 month, both of them.
Right.
Okay. On the second scenario, if one of them confesses to the other, so one will be free like that at that point of time, and the other person will be there for 5 years, vice versa.
Yeah.
But the third scenario over here is this, that if they both confess, they both will be there for 5 years. What do you think will happen? I mean, what do you think ideally should happen?
Equal probability.
Equal probability, right? That is what we teach. So game theory teaches about that.
Oh, right. That's brilliant. Okay.
So
So you turn education into tiny pockets of games.
Yes.
Right.
There is one book, maths की Stanford professor ने लिखी है, how to teach maths. तो specifically fraction हो गया, factors and multiples हो गया. I think many of us can relate. हम डाइस से खेलते हैं, क्या हम कभी भी काउंट करते हैं क्या नंबर आया? It's a visual thing, right? तो अगर मैंने वो visual appearance या visual clue नंबर के लिए generate कर दिया, for me factor and multiple would be very easy. So I will share it sometime if you want that page. She represented 3 as 3 different dots, and then 6 as 3 dots like this and 3 dots like this. So 6 would be you understood, 3 dots like this and then 3 dots like this would be a diamond. And then she represent 60 like 10 diamonds, and then she represented each number with a pattern. It is such a beautiful thing. And then she said the whole science behind is developing the visual intelligence, and there are many examples like that. I have developed a game on factor and multiple, and I merged it with tic-tac-toe. You have to play like tic-tac-toe, and it's factor and
Interesting.
multiple. The child will get mastery over factor and multiple for first 10 numbers.
Actually, game theory is not just used in academics. It's used in everywhere around the world, in every field. It's also used in wars.
Yeah, you were telling me about that the other day. Yeah.
It's also used in economics. It's also used in, commerce. In every field we use it. I think there was a case study on, game theory's case study on USSR versus USS Cold War. There were also case study why US will lose the war, because game theory says, so there are like two kind of games in game theory as well. So one is like the result would be the end of it. You are having a test, right? The result of it will be the end of that academic year or whatever the test was. But the life games, right, like wars, are continuous in nature.
Never ending, eternal.
Yes. Right.
And also the beauty of game, teaching anything via game, the child is an active participant. And why active participant? You lose his focus, you get a feedback you have lost.
You know what I'm
So
told?
it gives you absolutely instant feedback.
Now, storytelling method, there is a level that I teach in which you can actually convert something you cannot imagine into something you can imagine.
So how is the teach? No mention of college or whatever, but how has been your journey in schooling and colleging? In college and teaching methodologies that you have come across, good teachers and things that you learned and things where you're not able to learn. Let's summarize it.
So I'm more of a auditory learner. So I learn when I listen to conversations faster. I didn't know this until today that even storytelling has all the three different kinds of learning styles. When I noticed you tell the stories, a person, you were telling about the whole picture, you were telling that there's a man running, so I was imagining that, and then you were narrating the story, so it's for auditory people, and then you were showing the movement, so that is for kinesthetic people. That is why students, that is why we have more interest in languages in English, because there are more of stories. In ground realities, basically just teachers would come in, they would tell that you have to study this, this and this is there for the exam, and they would have their own style. Each teacher would have their own style, and as we pass through the grades, it is the job of the students to adapt to the style of the teaching of the teacher. So we would have to, like, say, one particular maths teacher asks us to write down the tables 10 times a day. Now I move to the next grade, the next teacher asks us to say it out loud 10 times a day. So now the kinesthetic students are finding it harder to adapt to the style of this teacher. So that's the ground.
That's why I asked that question. Because we are living in a country with 1.3 billion people. Classrooms are supposed to be 75. How does EdTech come in here? Because it's a large classroom. How do you adapt to each child?
So this is one thing we do. We do activities before we start, right? And that's where we figure out how the student is actually doing. So a lot of times what happens is I think when we visited that school as well, right?
Yeah.
We noticed
we went for an event together in Hyderabad.
Yeah. So there we noticed that every student is responding to the speech, to whatever we're speaking, in a very different manner. And that's what we have to notice bit by bit. And when you talk about these things like auditory, kinesthetic, these are really specific things. You won't be like, by just seeing the child, you won't be able to judge that thing. You have to actually sit with them. You have to actually see them and understand how they are learning.
How do you do that with 75 kids in a class?
The thing is, it's basic test we do. So what do? We have different type of exercises that we do. So when we see that few of them are grasping that way, tend to increase that thing. And we figure out, okay, these are the kids that are not able to perform those exercises, so we have to teach them in this certain way.
But it is still the teacher who's the medium of the flow of knowledge. One teacher keeping in mind learning styles of 75 children. How is that a practical reality?
It is completely practical, I would say. First thing is, actually I would come down to that later in a much more detail, but the grade system itself is a flaw.
The teacher would be able to teach because the activity that they have designed, it basically needs major part of the student. Because even if a story is telling, it is meeting the needs of auditory, visual and kinesthetic child.
It's like a compound exercise.
Right. So maybe the percentage of reaching every student in different activities and tools and techniques would be different. But the techniques and the tools are meant or form in a way, keeping that a teacher has to teach in a class where there would be very different learning style, varied learning style. So our approach should be able to cater the needs of all the different learning style kids. So if you can, that's where I said, आप मत पढ़ाओ, 3D एनिमेशन दिखा दो, बच्चों को थोड़ा सा रोल प्ले करा दो, सेट. बट एजुकेशन सिस्टम इंडिया का ऐसा क्यों आया? क्योंकि जब यूके में रेवोल्यूशन आया, तो जब ब्रिटिशर्स इंडिया आए, उससे पहले एजुकेशन सिस्टम ऐसा नहीं था. वी हैव बिकम वेरी ग्रेड ओरिएंटेड बिकॉज वी हैव बिकम जॉब ओरिएंटेड. जॉब, जहाँ पर जॉब वाला क्यों इंजीनियर बनना चाहते हैं? बिकॉज इंजीनियर गिव्स द हाईएस्ट परसेंटेज ऑफ गारंटी कि जॉब तो लग जाएगी.
यस.
तो जैसे ही हम वो सिस्टम को, अगर हमें चेंज करना है, ग्रेडिंग सिस्टम से अगर मुझे डेवलपमेंट में जाना है, तो मुझे मीडिया के थ्रू बहुत सारी चीज़ें दिखाना है कि स्टार्टअप शुरू कर सकते हो, आप ये काम कर सकते हो, आप रिसर्च में जा सकते हो. नीड नॉट टू बी ग्रेट. अगर मुझे नहीं लगता कि आईआईटी में कोई पिक करेगा कि आईआईटी का एग्ज़ाम क्लियर नहीं किया, लेकिन उसने बहुत बढ़िया कुछ क्रिएट कर दिया, कोई मशीन क्रिएट कर दी. विल IIT college will take him?
It's not just about that also. I have a friend who appeared for UPSC because of family pressure for 4 years, could not crack it, went into depression, went on meds. applied for IIT, invested another 1.5 years. Now he or she is in IIT, has got in, still depressed.
Still depressed.
So I asked why. I don't know, I'm 27, I never asked myself what I want to do.
Yes, because हमको बहुत बचपन से ही मतलब I have lot of students जिनको उनके पेरेंट्स ने 6th grade से एलन करा दिया है, उनको इंजीनियरिंग की तैयारी करा दी है, बिकॉज दे हैव नॉट आस्क्ड व्हाट डज अ चाइल्ड वांट, उसको एक्सपोजर ही नहीं दिया. रिसेंटली नियर नेबरहुड से कोई आए पेरेंट मेरे पास, उनका बच्चा 4th में है. दे सेड आप उसको इतना मैथ्स और साइंस पढ़ाओ कि वो सोचे भी नहीं कि उसे कोई और सब्जेक्ट लेना है 9th में. विल यू बिलीव इट?
What did you say?
I didn't say because वो उस मोड में नहीं थे कि वो मेरी बात समझे. I said give me some time, I will come back to you, but right now I will not take the child. And because he said I am from a commerce background, I have done MBA from London, I have the number of those. I don't want कि ये भी commerce ले ले, because then he will lag the way I lag. तो सबसे बड़ा a request to all the parents कि पेरेंट्स अपने सपने अपने बच्चों में देखते हैं.
Yes, that's
ये
completely
biggest
true.
flaw है.
सिर्फ सब में
ह्यूमन
नहीं.
बीइंग के सिवा हर लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म को पता है कि अपने बच्चे को कब छोड़ना है. चिड़िया को भी पता है कि मेरा बच्चा सक्षम हो गया, लीव इट. सिर्फ एक ह्यूमन बीइंग है जो 60 इयर्स में भी ना पेरेंट्स बता रहे होंगे आपको लाइफ में ये कर.
Because expectations खत्म नहीं होते.
Yep.
एक्सपेक्टेशंस खत्म नहीं होते और जो खुद नहीं कर सकते वो बच्चे से चाहते हैं.
There's this beautiful process that happens in animals, especially in dogs, called teething period. All of us know about it?
Yeah.
Teething period. Teething period is a time where a female dog would, where a mother, when you see a mother to a pup, would look really brutal because the mother bites. It bites the kid. It bites. It hits. Because it is the teething period of the child and it is understanding the sensitivity of the bite. And it's while it's playing with the mother. When you see little pups playing, they always hit each other. I used to always question this. Why do they hit each other? Because that's nature's way of them learning to fight as they grow up. Which is a very important indicator that education is not learning only. Education is the process of becoming an individual. Or in other words, a fully grown independent or interdependent adult. Education is the light of knowledge on the path of adulting. So why is it that we don't know how to deal with heartbreaks? Why is it that we don't know how we have little knowledge about our emotions? Why is it that our subjects don't curtail emotional intelligence about how to deal with our own emotions? Why is it that we don't have sex education? In most schools, even today. Why is it that we just have PT periods where we go out and play football and come back, but we are not taught about muscle hypertrophy, muscle building, compound exercises? Why do we have to learn leadership? Why is it that we have to learn all of this from a gym trainer? Why do we have life coaches outside of school for adults and trigonometry and these subjects in school for children? Why is it that psychology is not a part of our current education system as a subject at disposition to children about how to make themselves better? Why is it that there is a lot of knowledge about the material world in terms of the outside world, that is, as somebody quoted very beautifully, objective world, objective perception of material things, and very little knowledge about subjective world, about your experiences, psychology, and your intellect, memory, training your memory, focus. And Fouzan said it so right when I was having a conversation with him that हमें ना, and Three Idiots में भी था I think ये dialogue, कि हम पढ़ाते तो हर किसी को है लेकिन पढ़ाना बहुत कम लोगों को आता है, और क्या पढ़ाना है ये भी.
Exactly.
So this question is open to the town hall. Where do we need to change? Where do we need to start?
I think the first thing that we should be looking forward is the teaching. So I'm not aware of the foreign markets. I'm not aware. I have researched about. I have spoken to a lot of teachers. Teachers are teaching for the sake of money. Teachers are, because most of the teachers, when I'm talking to them, they have been rejected by other things, and that's the last resort for them as a teacher.
Let's reframe that, because that could be offensive.
I mean, not all of
Let's
them.
reframe that. Teachers have reduced, some teachers have reduced teaching to monetary gains.
Yep.
That's what you're trying to
Yes.
say?
So, education system as a whole, what we seeing right now, as she mentioned rightly, that it has become job oriented. Now the way they are teaching, the whole education system, the way it is designed is to prepare them for the jobs. And in jobs, what happen is you are stuck in the rat race where you don't really have to think a lot. You are just in a loop of doing the same constant word repeatedly, and that's what the students are learning. They learn how to do assignments repetitively without using a lot of their creativity. They just separate it completely. And that's what the education is. So I think it's Macaulay who introduced education system, this kind of education system in India, where they wanted, ये चीज़ हुई थी प्री इंडिपेंडेंस, दैट दे वांटेड समवन स्किल्ड जिनको पढ़ने लिखने आता है टू बी क्लर्क्स. सो तो वो लोग क्या करें, सिस्टम इस तरीके से डिज़ाइन करें कि जो भी बच्चे पढ़ेंगे वो आगे जाके उन लोग के लिए काम करेंगे एज क्लर्क्स, नॉट लाइक फ्री थिंकर्स.
That's a theory I've read, but is that verified?
Yeah, Macaulay, yeah, he has brought, it is verified. Okay, so the education system, the first thing is that. But what I am working on in Polymath Academy is complete new kind of education system, right, where there are no grades. So right now, what we see is that students don't get to choose the subjects, right? They have been enforced. Like 11, जब आप grade 1 में हैं, first में है, second में है, you have these subjects that you have to study, right? You don't get no choice. Don't get a decision to make. Right, and you are rightly saying about this thing, right? You don't get to teach, you don't get to learn psychology, you don't get to learn neuroscience, even though it's very important topics, right? Now, what we have to understand is this: that in the new era of education, we have to keep this thing in mind that students should get to choose what they learn, rather than we imposing on them that you have to learn this set of things. And also so in the new education system, what I have been designing, there would be different kinds of combination.
So you're going like right up against grading system.
Yes. So again, it would be very brutally honest from my side that today's education system is flawed.
Why?
Because it doesn't prepare you for the real world.
It doesn't prepare you for life.
It doesn't prepare you for the life. And now its value is getting decreased day by day. Now we also see that if you were ready for the job as well, if we just assume it in that way, why do companies have this training periods where they teach you a lot of set of different things? Every company has their own set of training programs.
Yeah, man. I mean, values, personal values, as we were talking about patience, confidence.
I will say that you cannot eliminate grading system completely because it caters parents' need. If my child is studying, how will I come to know my child is doing well or not?
How do you?
So, for parents' perspective, if we see, not all the parents are educated, not all the parents are aware of outside world. It's a very common system which can satisfy the parents' need, because there are many parents who are just 10th pass, but the child is studying in a very good school because the parent is a businessman, right? So for them, knowing the grades is give them some kind of a satisfaction. Yes, my child is learning. What I feel that education system first, if it has to change, we have to change the expectation, the mentality of a society. More and more exposure. If we go to the school and we tell a lot of stories to the parents and children that the child has started a new startup किया है, एक नया business start किया है, एक नई invention की है, right? It gives lot of bandwidth for the parents to think कि हाँ engineering नहीं करेगा तो बहुत कुछ कर सकता है. आपको पता है engineer से भी ज़्यादा paid एक translator को मिलता है. Translators are the one of the highest paid job. So you just tell the child that if you don't like maths or science and you would like to learn any one language, there is the scope. वो क्या है, इंडिया में सब चीज़ों का स्कोप है. इंडिया का इकोनॉमिक्स इतना ख़राब नहीं है, लेकिन इंडिया को एजुकेशन सिस्टम को एक ही तरीके से प्रोजेक्ट कर रहा है. इट इज़ नॉट प्रोजेक्टिंग ऑल अदर आस्पेक्ट. ब्रीथिंग टेक्निक हो गई, योगा हो गया, हम बच्चे को जाके सच NLP शायद उतने छोटे लेवल पे नहीं सिखाते, लेकिन अगर आप इंडियन सिस्टम से जा रहे हो जहाँ पे इंटीग्रेटेड वैल्यूज़ भी हैं, वी वर यूज्ड टू टीच वेरी वेरी ब्यूटीफुल थिंग. सुबह असेंबली होती थी, एक प्रेयर होती थी.
Yeah, I went through that Indian education system. Yeah.
So we had those values. चाहे धूप है लेकिन हम खड़े हुए हैं.
Right. But that's not there anymore.
Unconscious discipline
Really?
नहीं होता है daily
What?
schools में.
It got-
Absolutely.
I am the
no.
only generation that went through
No,
assembly.
we also got.
You also okay.
We also.
1 hour धूप में. What are you teaching? You are teaching the child to control, to have that discipline, to bear that sunlight, right? And what kind of feeling you get?
And also a sense of uniformity.
Yes. Why? तो ये सारी चीज़ें ऐसा नहीं है कि नहीं सिखा रहे, लेकिन मुझे अभी भी ऐसा लगता है, मैं इतना क्लोजली स्कूल्स में वर्क किया है, अवेयरनेस हर स्कूल, अवेयरनेस पेरेंट्स में आ रही है, लेकिन एक कॉन्फिडेंट लीडर नहीं है जो ये बोल सके दिस इज़ द राइट वे. एक रिवोल्यूशनराइज अप्रोच चाहिए कि देर आर डिफरेंट वेज, आपको प्रूफ के साथ चाहिए कि देखो ये देर आर वेरियस ट्रांसलेटर. अब किसी का बच्चा ट्रांसलेटर बन जाता है या एक बिजनेसमैन बन जाता है, वो कितना प्रोजेक्ट करता है, IAS बन गया, इंजीनियर बन गया, IIT में चला गया, तो सबको पता IIT में चला गया, राइट?
There's a friend of mine who was kicked out of school in 8th grade because he was dyslexic. His first school kicked him out when he was in 8th. And his parents were told that this kid cannot continue here because boards are here and their average would drop. There's a friend of mine, the elder friend. His son is a fantastic, phenomenal guitar player. Autistic, but fantastic, phenomenal guitar player. I have never seen a human being play that fast and that well. But totally socially awkward. If you go try to talk to him, he'll be like, he'll completely shy away from you. He'll not talk to you. He doesn't look directly at you. He looks in all directions. And his father is so beautiful, such a wonderful human being. He left his job in US and came down and settled in India and started a school here in Bangalore, music school, that now his son, who's old enough, is now heading.
Oh, wow.
I have another friend of mine who I have known for the longest period of time, successful businessman, dyslexic. Abhishek Bachchan was dyslexic. Albert Einstein was dyslexic.
Yes.
So, what I'm saying is, there are a lot of us who call this category of kids differently abled or disabled, some even go to the extent of disabled. But if you're listening to me right now and you are in this bracket, I want you to know that you are wonderful as you are. Because you are incredible. You should not care about what anyone is saying about you. Believe in what you have because you're incredible as you are. Nature has made you the way you are and you are beautiful the way you are. Having said that, I would start, I mean, I would continue with the note I started with. Human intelligence is not comprehensible as of now. It's very tough to comprehend what human intelligence is, first off. So, in that scenario, we can judge something that we understand. If you understand something, you can measure and judge it.
Yes.
You understand weight because you understand the word weight itself was formed because you understand gravity, you understand mass. Based on that, you know that there is weight, so you can judge weight. If you're not able to, if the current civilization that we are in, I'm talking about the whole 7 billion of us, are not able to comprehend human intelligence, on what basis should we judge it? Number one. Number two, what is the inclusive way ahead? Where there is, unlike racial discrimination, this is another subtle form of discrimination where we are completely neglecting the fact that each child comes with a different deck of cards.
Absolutely.
Each child comes with a different set of cards. Each child is here with a different hand that he's playing. But we are only picking out, nahi, hum sirf is color ke card se khelenge.
Yes.
So, what is the way of being inclusive? I'll actually start with you, ma'am. Yeah.
What I feel is, first of all, की importance पता है कि इसके बावजूद भी you are successful and you are creative, right? But अगर किसी इंसान को बोलो कि उसका बेटा डिसलेक्सिया है, the first thought came in mind, अरे वो कुछ नहीं कर पाई. So अगर हमको एक बहुत क्विक और एक बहुत मैसिव इम्पैक्ट में करना है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि 10th ग्रेड जो एक कई बच्चे लगता है कि पास नहीं कर पाते, द वोकेशनल एजुकेशन जो एक स्टार्ट हुई है अभी काफ़ी दिल्ली के काफ़ी स्कूल्स में, बिकॉज वन ऑफ द थिंग जहाँ पे किड्स कैन एक्चुअली एक्सप्लोर देयर अदर स्किल, और एक वो जो एक बना हुआ है कि 10th का सर्टिफिकेट होगा तभी हम ये कुछ कर पाएंगे, दैट इज़ अ बेसिक थिंग रिक्वायर्ड। अगर हम वहाँ पे थोड़ा डाइल्यूशन देते हैं एंड पेरेंट्स को ज़्यादा एक्सपोजर देते हैं अबाउट द पॉसिबिलिटीज़, मुझे लगता है अगर पेरेंट्स को ज़्यादा पॉसिबिलिटी देंगे, क्योंकि बच्चा तो स्कूल में 6 घंटे रहता है, 18 घंटे वो पेरेंट्स के साथ रहता है, तो पेरेंट्स कैन मेक अ वेरी बिग इम्पैक्ट कि वहाँ जहाँ पे आप पॉसिबिलिटी दिखाओ, अरे देयर आर 15 जॉब्स, there are 15 different areas, there are 15 different business style that you can do. I think that is the whole perspective of education, giving a hope to a child that you can do well.
Since you're in touch with ground reality, is India heading there or are we still lagging?
India is heading, trying, but where the India is lagging in terms of the technology, in terms of the awareness with parents, मुझे वो लगता है कि इंडिया वहाँ लैग करा। इंडिया सब कुछ स्कूल में अप्लाई करता है, स्कूल में क्या चल रहा है पेरेंट को नहीं पता। पेरेंट्स अगर कोई भी एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म है जहाँ पे आप इंजीनियरिंग और नीट और कंप्यूटर एजुकेशन को छोड़ के आप सीरियसली पेरेंट्स को एजुकेट करते हो, मैं टीचिंग फील्ड में हूँ, मुझे भी नहीं पता है कि कितने और इंडिया में पर्सपेक्टिव है। एंड आई टेल यू भरत, इंडिया में बहुत ज़्यादा पर्सपेक्टिव है, बट वो है कि हमको वो प्रोजेक्ट करना नहीं आ रहा टू अ बिगर लेवल। मैक्सिमम IITians इंडिया से आते हैं, बड़ी बड़ी कंपनीज इंडिया चाइना कर रही है, तो इंटेलिजेंस की कमी नहीं है, हमने बस चैनलाइज और प्रोजेक्ट करना अभी हमने ठीक तरीके से स्टार्ट नहीं किया। आपको पता है कितने कितने स्कूल्स हैं इंडिया में जो जापानीज सिखाते हैं? आपको पता है स्कूबा डाइविंग कहाँ होती है? आपको पता है डिज़ाइन थिंकिंग का क्या रोल है आगे जाके? आपको पता है कि अगर आज मैं कोई चीज़ या क्रिएट करती हूँ तो वो अगर आज मैं कोई एक मशीन क्रिएट करती हूँ तो मुझे कहाँ जाके किस कंपनी को अप्रोच करना है?
Wow, so basically what you're saying is that opportunity is not connected to the...
Yes, opportunities are not connected to the parents and to the root. वहाँ पे हम लैग कर रहे हैं। क्या मुझे एज अ पेरेंट पता है? आज शौर्य मुझे, मेरा बेटा मुझे बोलता है मुझे NDA में जाना है। वी हैड टू हंट कि NDA में जाने के लिए अभी से प्रिपेयर कैसे करेगा, एंड आई केम टू नो कि सैनिक स्कूल में जाना है। सैनिक स्कूल का एंट्रेंस दिलाते दिलाते पता लगा देयर इज़ वन मोर स्कूल RMS जो वो भी NDA की तैयारी कराता है। सोचो मेरे पास वो प्लेटफॉर्म ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन था ही नहीं।
Wow.
पेरेंट्स को अवेयरनेस नहीं है भरत, अपॉर्चुनिटीज इतनी हैं कि मैं आपको बता नहीं सकती।
EdTech. Mr. Fouzan, this is where you come in, the platform.
So, adding, I think,
What is your perspective? How do you, since you're from the startup background and you also have a very good understanding of technology, right? You're also currently pursuing a digital marketing. How can we do this? How can we bridge the gap? This is a gap.
yeah. So the thing is, adding on to that point, and it's really said beautifully.
Very nice, by the way.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So actually, I had this incident which was actually coming on top of my mind when we were speaking about learning disability. So I was in this institution where I was teaching. So we started up from ground and we started building, because I also had a bit of experience with business and all. I think I actually shared as well.
You did.
Yeah. So the thing which happened was we started building and there were a lot of students coming in. At start, it was very good because we were able to actually, implement those things. So it was a contract that I just had to teach over there. That's it. So I was the head teacher over there. Now the thing which happened, I used to teach for the higher grades. So there was a kid who was in second class. He was about 7 or 8 years old. So few teachers complained about that student. So he used to talk a lot. He was extrovert. Okay, he used to say his future plans that I would build a aeroplane company and I would have this kind of a design and मैं इस तरीके से बेचूंगा, इस तरीके से हम करेंगे, ये वाले इतने रुपए में रखेंगे. He had that kind of a creativity. I'm talking about like I could not even compete with him. I was just trying to just mess with him मजे लेने के लिए, but I could not even reach that level of thinking as well. So the teacher used to complain. I thought कि क्यों complain कर रहे हैं, इतना तो छोटा बच्चा है. पहले बात तो first I thought कि why is he even school? इसको तो बाहर निकल के कुछ अच्छा करना चाहिए. But then I realized
वही तो इंडिया में नहीं पता.
हाँ, तो then they were like कि क्या problem है. I asked the teachers what is the problem? I mean he's a good kid. तो लाइक कि उनको पढ़ने नहीं आ रहा है. 2 का टेबल हम आज पढ़ाए, 3 बार बच्चा बोला, दूसरे दिन हम पूछे 2 का टेबल भूल गया. हम बोले कि कैट लिखो बोल रहे हो, पता नहीं बैट लिख रहा है, कभी क्यों सी से लिखो बोल रहे हो तो हम के सी लिख रहा है बच्चा. तो मैं बोला कि क्या है प्रॉब्लम. मैं जाके चेक करा. इन 5 minutes आई गॉट टू नो दैट ही इज डिसलेक्सिक. ही वॉज नॉट एबल टू रिकग्नाइज द वर्ड्स. And now the thing which happened was, in that institution there was a pressure of getting good marks. Now they were approaching this exam season. Now वो लोग इतना प्रेशर बिल्ड करे बच्चों पर कि तुमको मार्क्स लेकर आना वाला कि देखिए, now your focus should not be on him for to get good marks. Okay, that's your different priority altogether, but ये बच्चा अभी नहीं कर सकता वो चीज़. You cannot expect him to एक्सेल इन एकेडमिक्स. और वो इतना छोटा सा था बच्चा, और उनका एक बड़ा भाई भी था एक्चुअली 5th क्लास में, एंड ही वॉज गेटिंग वेरी गुड ग्रेड्स. सो दे वर एक्चुअली कंपेयरिंग हिम कि इनका बड़ा भाई तो स्मार्ट है, ये बच्चा ना खेलते, इतने बात ना करते बच्चा, इतने ज़्यादा ना खेलते, बात करते हुए बच्चा बट अचीव ही नहीं कर सक रहा है ग्रेड्स. एंड दे स्टार्टेड हैविंग दैट काइंड ऑफ अ पर्सपेक्टिव. नाउ आई सेड कि दैट इज़ राइट, कंप्लीटली राइट. उनका भाई बहुत इंटेलिजेंट है, गेटिंग द पॉइंट, बट ये बच्चा वैसा नहीं है. बच्चे के स्ट्रॉन्ग पॉइंट्स और बच्चा जिसमें लैग कर रहा है बहुत अलग है, एंड ही नीड्स स्पेशल अटेंशन ऑन दैट पर्टिकुलर इशू एंड ही विल एक्सेल. आई मीन देयर इज अ वे दैट यू कैन एक्चुअली गेट हिम थ्रू दैट. बट दे लाइक नहीं, आप वो बच्चा सिर्फ शरारती कर. नाउ दिस इज समथिंग दैट पेरेंट्स, एंड इवन आई स्पोक टू हिज पेरेंट्स एज वेल, एंड इवन द मैनेजमेंट, दे आर लाइक कि नहीं, बच्चा सिर्फ शरारती कर रहा है इसीलिए बच्चा नहीं पढ़ रहा है.
Isn't this cognitive bias, by the way?
Yes.
This is cognitive bias.
Yes. And another thing is, I think the teachers are not trained to find out what he can find out in 5 minutes. I'm sure a teacher who knows how to find out a dyslexia child would be able to find it out after having a 10 minutes conversation.
So I think one more very important thing that I understand podcast is that teacher training is very important in the right
yes,
direction.
Completely.
And I think the analysis, how about I have, so that's a very beautiful concept when I entered into teaching. So I asked my mentor, how did you come to know that this child will not be able to understand this particular thing? So she said, I know how many of them are, which one is visual, which one is auditory. So in my whole mind, I have a different groups of students basically. And the way she make them sit, one auditory, one visual child. And all the kinesthetic child will be just next to the door so that they'll feel comfortable. Because so the deep knowledge about the learning abilities, learning style of the children, and the way you place your classroom, the way you chunk your kids, again helps to deliver things. So अगर मुझे पता ही वो बच्चा विजुअल है, तो जब मैं विजुअल का कुछ करा लूँगी, आई कैन सी द स्पार्क इन हिज आइज, राइट. और मुझे पता है वो ऑडिटरी वाला नहीं होगा, तो मैं ऑडिटरी बच्चों के पास जाके थोड़ा ज़्यादा जोर से बोलूँगी.
I wish when I was growing up, my teachers knew all of this. I had a lot of wonderful teachers. So you were saying, could you complete your story? Then I'll tell you a little.
Yeah. So this was happening that. So when I actually approached them and I said, this is what you need to do, they rejected it completely because they always feel that it's the children's what do we say, attention, that they're not paying focus. This is something they say, focus नहीं कर रहे. But they don't understand कि focus क्यों नहीं हो रहा है बच्चों से. वो बच्चा
focus क्या है
actually. Okay, now what blew my mind कि okay, this is one more story I actually have. So ये तो dyslexia था. So there was a kid who had dysgraphia.
What is dysgraphia?
No, not dysgraphia, sorry, dyscalculia था बच्चे को.
What is dysgraphia and dyscalculia? In short,
I think you would be able to answer this thing, but
dyscalculia is more when you are not able to do the mental problems, calculation
numbers.
नहीं कर पाते. And dysgraphia is when you are not able to write, spellings recall करने में problem होती है, और writing skill में problem होती है, वहाँ पे होता है. ऐसे बहुत सारे learning
अलग
Yes. So इसमें he had dyscalculia, he had problem with numbers. Okay, so this boy failed in 10th maths subject. So the parents asked me long back that they heard something about me. They were like, पढ़ाइए please बोलकर. So I went to him and I actually assessed him. Okay, problem क्या है भाई, maths तो 10th का easy होता है. I mean for me, sorry. Again, so I thought कि it's manageable, pass तो हो जाना चाहिए था. Then I assessed him about 10th grade student. I asked him few problems like basic problems of multiplication and addition. I said that there were 2 chocolates, each had like 4 bars. How many bars are in total? He couldn't do it. Simple problems. Now, when I told his parents that the problem is not that आपका बच्चा ख़राब है या बच्चा attention नहीं पे कर रहे हैं, it's about कि बच्चे को actually learning disability है and this is something आपको identify करना चाहिए. Even though if you don't even tell the kid, tell the parents, they'll हाँ. तो now इसमें क्या हुआ मतलब, you won't believe how many hours he was studying. So he used to go to tuition from morning 5:30 to 7. Then he had school from 8 o'clock, 8:30ish to around 5:30. Then he used to go to two tuitions in the evening. One from I guess 7 I think he said 7 to 8:30 something, 1.5 hour. Then again a tuition till 12 o'clock. And then they wanted me also to teach. I was like कि इट्स, आप उन लोग के पर्सपेक्टिव तो सोचो कि वो लोग फोकस नहीं कर रहे क्या, वो लोग है ना कहते मेहनत नहीं करना चाहते अगर वो लोग इतने आवर्स डाल रहे. एंड हाउ वुड यू इवन से कि भाई बच्चे नहीं मेहनत कर रहे. आई थिंक 11th 12th 10th एंड अगर कोई कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम्स के लिए प्रिपेयर हो रहे, वो स्टूडेंट्स दे आर द मोस्ट स्ट्रेसफुल पीपल इन द वर्ल्ड.
What is your message to all the teachers who are listening to this?
I think most of the teachers, whenever I speak to the principals, the teachers, they are a bit conservative. They feel कि
traditional
teaching methods. I mean, I don't know. मैं तो ये generation का हूँ. I think it was effective in the older generation, but
we need awareness. We need awareness to teaching methods. We need awareness to different styles of intelligences. We need awareness about different kinds of hands that children are coming into the world with, different kinds of intelligence. Someone is really good with spatial awareness, someone is very good with creativity, somebody has learning, somebody has people skills, somebody has maths, somebody has analytical brain.
Yes.
I think that's
So what is your message to the students, ma'am?
Actually, what to say to students? Students look up to the teacher, right? Basically. So I really don't have any message to students because one message will not cater or will not be fit for all the students, right?
true.
But the only thing as a human being, if you ask me, every one of you has something special and the world has enough opportunity and place to show up. Have that trust, find the right mentor, and I'm sure you would be able to come out there something. This is my true feeling that each one of you holds something very special which can help you to grow further. The only thing is sometimes we don't get the right mentor, right opportunity, right guidance. It's not about you lagging in something. It's about we might not get a good equation with universe to unfold that thing. That's the message. But I truly feel because मैं बस एक नहीं इतने example हैं. I got one child, 1 mark out of 100, 7th grade. Very bully, used to slap teachers, and the parent came and he said, why should I study from you? I don't want to study. And that child has cracked 90% in 10th. He started loving biology so much that he used to write in an exam, marks cut kar sakte ho to kar lo. People have started calling him biology guru. I have his Irfan from Clarence School. He's been with me from 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Irfan, if you're listening this is especially for you. We have spent very good time, and thanks for being the part of my teaching experience. You have done a fabulous job.
It's beautiful.
So that's the whole thing. He himself didn't know what is his strength, right? So I just told, okay, you come with me, if you like, you be there. So, and eventually he started. So how will grades tell what ability are you holding with, right?
Claps to Irfan.
Thank you. I have so many. That's why I feel my life I feel very happy and content because I feel I'm in a field which can make difference in people's life, in children's life, basically. So my son, he was in grade 5th, and I had my daughter, right, at delivery, and he was failing in all the subjects, 18 out of 100, 15 out of 100. He was not able to read Hindi, he was not able to make calculation. It's all about confidence. He felt neglected. I held his hand 6 months, and I did 4th grade, 5th grade with him. And then in 6th grade, he came up with 85%. And then he asked me to teach for more years. And at that time, I stopped. I told my journey was to just help you to jump that bridge, to make that, just bridge that gap. I don't want to teach you, because if I start teaching you, you'll be dependent on me. Now I made you that much capable. Lead your life. And he is in grade 8th. I'm blessed the way he studies. You won't believe, in term exam, he studied maths and exam was of science. The way he handled that thing, he just slapped himself, he just drank water, he wrote science exam, top in his class. And I said, wow, I've never ever believed that with such a cool mind you'll be able to take this thing. So he is on that level. He's prepared. He's studying IGCSE and he's studying CBSE side by side because he wants to crack Scenic School. He'll be able to do it or not, but the kind of dedication he's showing from zero studying social science, and I made him realize that he's a very visual child. So if you can't learn it from book, open YouTube, see the animation, and the concept will sink in your mind.
I just want to add to you who's listening to this, if you're in school or college right now, I want you to know that when I was in radio, nobody asked me कि मेरा 10th में 76% आ रहा है 92. I got 76% in 10th and उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा, because what mattered to my bosses was कि मेरा show चल रहा है कि नहीं. When you're an editorial, people only want to know how good a writer you are. That's all that matters in business. In the end of the day, what you're able to achieve. When you're on stage and you're delivering, or you're in a podcast room like right now, or when you are anywhere, what matters more than all the marks you would have ever got in your life is how good you're able to handle yourself in terms of your calm, your confidence, how you're able to communicate. And here breathing helps.
Yes.
Deep breaths, breathing techniques, NLP, knowing yourself, emotional resilience, value systems are a very important parts of growing as an individual, as an adult. So keeping scores aside, they are important in the practical world today, but keeping scores aside, there's a lot for you to grow into as you're adulting.
Absolutely.
I just want to add a few things over there. I think what we are seeing these days is that our parents and even our teachers are associating the academic performance to the intelligence, right? The one, if the students are scoring high, parents are actually feeling that their children
There's
are
something
actually,
right with the kid.
There's something right with the kid. And even though like if they're getting something like around 70, but they're really getting creative in other fields and they're exploring new things, they don't think it's improvement for child. They are associating it with the academic performance completely, and they feel that if the student gets 90, then we have put in a right school, he's in right place, he's doing great, he's smart, and the smartness has become like that. And it's something that makes me feel also bad that whenever I see a child, even though he's really brilliant, he's in other fields, when he gets a bit low marks in like something, if he's not really good in maths, and he scores a bit less in maths, not fails, but even if he scores even a bit less, he thinks that he's not even capable of doing anything good in life, and they get that kind of feeling because he'll be like, भैया मेरे ना पापा वो लोग बोलते कि कम मार्क्स है बोल के भी गुस्सा कर रहे.
And to that parent and to that child who's listening right now,
yes,
there is plenty of opportunity in the country, like ma'am said very rightly. There's plenty of opportunity. Believe in yourself, take your steps wisely and move ahead.
So even about the learning disability thing, what I genuinely feel is it's not differently abled, it's not a disability, it's a gift from the God.
It is.
It is.
I realized that later.
I have seen a lot of dyslexia. I have a lot of dyslexic friends as well, and they're doing great in life.
Thing is, all of us are born with a different hand. All of us have a different set of cards. It's about the perspective that you look at it with. So only because somebody else is playing donkey doesn't mean you have to play with them.
Yes, absolutely.
You can play the game that you are born for, right? Reshma, I would love to know what has been your journey since you're in college right now. What has been your journey in the whole research we did, in the exploration, in the podcast and everything?
As a student, first of all, the whole starting from the research process to the podcast, this has been really eye-opening because I have noticed patterns in my own studies, in my own life where even I don't know how to draw. I can't do maths fast. So I was compared with my friends, and that is why I don't do maths well. I don't draw well.
Yes.
But if I actually sit down and try drawing without any pressure, without anybody to compare to, I can actually draw well. I can actually calculate faster. So I have started to notice these patterns because of this podcast, and I think it is really important and it was really necessary that we spoke about this today.
Wow.
Nuts.
I have thousands and thousands of examples, and each example itself is a journey in my development. From the day one when I thought, okay, knowing just the structure of heart is so essential and just you need to go and deliver. And now I actually draw the heart and I flip it on the paper and say why the left side of the heart becomes the right side when you study. And that's the whole confusion, because one of my child asked and it triggered, oh my god, ये भी तो confusion है कि जब हार्ट का स्ट्रक्चर पढ़ रहे हो तो राइट साइड को लेफ्ट साइड लेबल क्यों कर रहे हो और लेफ्ट साइड को राइट साइड लेबल क्यों कर रहे हो. एंड देन द जर्नी वेंट कि ऐसे नहीं आएगा तो और कैसे समझा सकते हैं, मेक इट इवन सिंपलर. द मोर यू स्टार्ट शोइंग द रेलिवेंसी ऐसा. और काफ़ी लोग कहते हैं कि हम अपना पढ़ा लिखा कुछ भी यूज़ नहीं करते. मैं ये बोलती हूँ कि यूज़ करना सिखाया नहीं होता, नहीं तो यूज़ होता है. अब जब घर बना रहे हो तो ट्रिग्नोमेट्री यूज़ कर सकते हो अगर यूज़ करना सिखाया है तो. क्यों हम जाके एक आर्किटेक्ट के ही पास हर छोटी चीज़ के लिए जाते हैं. तो यूज़ हर चीज़ होती है. इतना नैरो नहीं है एजुकेशन सिस्टम, इतना डिसेबल्ड नहीं है. हमें वो ठीक तरह से यूज़ करना और प्रोजेक्ट करना नहीं आ रहा है. हाँ, ये जो फ्लॉ है कि वो जॉब ओरिएंटेड ज़्यादा है, बट अब अवेयरनेस आ गई है, इसीलिए लोग इतने स्टार्टअप कर रहे हैं.
Education system is just an instrument. You're saying we just have to restyle the approach.
Yes, we have to restyle it.
This by far has been one of the best podcasts I've done in my life.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I loved this podcast. I feel so rich right now. I'm sure all of you are feeling it. That it's so rich right now in terms of perspectives. Platform, summing up, platform where opportunities could be presented to parents and children. Learning styles, methodologies, approaching differently abled and the correct approach, empowering teachers, students. It's been such a rich podcast. So I wanted to end it with something I wrote in the podcast. So I've written a small couplet shairi while all of you were talking. I was listening, but in between I was also parallelly writing this.
Creative.
Just wrote it couple of minutes ago. दुनिया के नाप से पतलून पहनने वाले धोखे में रह गए. दुनिया के नाप से पतलून पहनने वाले धोखे में रह गए. अजी जिसने अपने आप से एक बार पूछ लिया वो आगे बढ़ गए.
वाह वाह.
Brilliant.
Very nice, very nice.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to interact with all of you. It's been such a pleasure to have this conversation. It's been enriching for my soul, and I'm sure that this podcast has already, to the people who are listening, has increased their awareness. To teachers it has brought something, to students it has brought something, to parents it has brought something. Thank you so much. Thank you.